Okay, thanks for staying with us. Time now for Media Watch, for which we're joined by James Creedon. Hiya, James.
Good evening, Georgia.
Okay, so we're going to start off with Mali and the media coverage of the crisis over there in the French media.
Exactly.
Now, first of all, there's been some criticism of the army for preventing journalists from doing their jobs.
Right. It's not the first time we've heard this. This has been criticism really for the last week or two. But there was another article today in Télérama magazine. Let's have a look online. Also in Le Monde about the fact that journalists are being kept in Bamako. The official pictures that are coming out are often being provided by the army. Let's take a look at an example of that. These are pictures that were released today by the Army Communication and Image Production Establishment. I think we can roll some of these pictures, and these were filmed, well, at least they were seen by the public today. I think we might have even had them in France 24 news bulletins. But actually, the problem is these images give no indication as to where they were filmed, the date, the location, the time. There are no details. So essentially, it's not massively informative about what is going on. So this is army PR, and it's about, a lot of the time, it's pretty much all that is available to journalists to work with.
So are there any questions about the authenticity of what's being shown at all?
I don't think there are any questions about authenticity, but just more details would need to be furnished for people to understand exactly what these images are portraying. And a lot of the journalists then who might be working with information like that are in Bamako when the action is taking place much further north in a very different part of the country. If they try to travel further north, they're stopped and searched and turned back. So that's one criticism, people being based in Bamako. Another criticism then is what I will show you on the computer. Reports that journalists are turning in. This is on BFM television, but it has been put on YouTube. And this is the title of the report is on an air base rather in Bamako. French military prepares. So these are the sort of reports that embedded journalists are actually doing. Soldiers preparing to go to the front line. So embedded journalists are covering that sort of stuff at the airbase in the transport, but not when the soldiers get to the front line. The journalists are not being allowed to go that far. So it's something quite different to what we saw during the war in Iraq, when journalists were actually able to cover scenes of conflict, so you were getting a real sense of what was going on. Another issue then again would be, I suppose, the extent to which foreign channels maybe are a little bit, or at least foreign journalists, even in Bamako, are a little bit less biased. There is a sense that French journalists who are there are very much talking about stories such as the welcome for the French troops, etc., etc. Other foreign news channels who have been covering the war have asked questions such as, is this an invasion? We haven't really seen French channels asking those sort of questions because they're French maybe and don't have as much distance from the issue.
Okay, now...
I mean, we could continue on that point. Actually, I was already talking about journalists, and I mean, the army has been criticised for keeping a lot of information to themselves, but journalists too. And we have another set of pictures, Georgia, which we can roll in a sec, which show perhaps one French journalist being a little bit biased or in favour of the French troops. You might expect that to an extent, but it has been criticised. Let's take a look.
Yeah, it's going pretty well. Why? Because we're striking fast and hard. Two main fronts are emerging. It's true, we're finding it tough to keep them together. The main challenge is for us to hold on to the territory that we've gained by airstrikes. These strikes by helicopters and Rafale fighters have caused a lot of damage to the Islamist rebels.
He certainly does sound very in favour of French troops.
Right, and that's, I suppose, one of the criticisms being made by Télérama and Le Monde. Perhaps he should be referring to the troops as the French army as opposed to, kind of our guys, so to speak. So perhaps, there are some issues there amongst French journalists being a little bit lacking in impartiality.
Okay, well, staying in France this Sunday, tens of thousands are expected to take to the streets in favour of gay marriage and adoption rights, and organisers are rallying support on social media.
That's right. We're seeing a lot of rallying of the troops, so to speak, on social media. We can roll one set of pictures. This is a video by pro-gay marriage groups trying to get people out there, trying to, I suppose, publicise the event. Let's get a close-up on this, because what you can see here is a progression through time over French history of, civil rights movements, achievements, progress, etc., etc. That video actually started with the birth of man and the beginnings of mankind, and here you can see it leading up to this glorious moment from the point of view of the organisers, where we're reaching full equality in terms of marriage equality and adoption rights, etc. So they're the sort of videos you're seeing circulating under the hashtag Marriage for All, Mariage pour tous. Another article that was interesting online today, Georgia, was this one on the Rue 89 website. Why don't we marry our horses, said my priest cousin on Facebook. Now that's a pretty catchy headline, right? And you kind of wonder what's going on here. Now the article was written by a guy called Baptiste de Casanova, and what he's essentially doing is making a public coming out on Facebook. Now he says he wasn't very involved in the whole debate about gay marriage until recently, when he realised the extent to which it was creating divisions in French society. Now you can see here on Facebook, his cousin basically started debating with him on this issue and said, gay marriage could next lead to polygamy, and why not marriage with animals or horses? So he was so angered by this that he actually took a screenshot of that Facebook conversation and included it in an article where he publicly came out on this website. So it shows the extent to which there are divisions in families over this issue.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much. James Creedon there with our Media Watch Roundup. Okay, stay with us. We've got more news and headlines coming up after this short break.